Hello my dear students of class 9th. Dear students, I already told you that before studying the Merchant of Venice, you please study the pages written in earlier. Means here start from the page 1, the story in brief, plot structure, important characters in the play, read all, and title of the play, characters in the play. These things must be learned. You must read it. Without it, you can't understand the Merchant of Venice. Read it, study it seriously, and if there is any problem, please ask me. Now I am going to start Act 1, Scene 2. Act 1, Scene 1 is completed. Now Act 1, Scene 2. I am going to start. Here you see the scene opens in Belmont, a room in Portia's house. Enter Portia and Nerissa in the scene. The scene is taking place at 1, Scene 2 in Belmont, a room in Portia's house. Enter Portia and Nerissa. Portia says, "By my troth, Nerissa, my little body is aweary of this great world." She says, honestly, Nerissa. Nerissa is a lady in waiting of Portia, and Portia shares each and everything to Nerissa. She says to Nerissa that, honestly, Nerissa, my little body is tired. I am exhausted. I am perplexed. I am bored. I am tired of this great world. I do not like. I am fed up. I am fed up with this great world. Nerissa says, "You would be, sweet madam, if your miseries were in the same abundance as your good fortunes are." She says, you would be tired, you would be fed up, you would be bored. Dear madam, since you have as many miseries as you have good fortunes, both you have in abundance, in plenty. You have as many miseries, woes, difficulties, worries. You have as many worries as you have good fortunes. You have good fortunes, you have enough wealth, you have much wealth, but together you have miseries also, you have worries also. Both the things you have in abundance, in plenty. She says further, and yet, for aught I see, they are as sick that surfeit with too much as they that starve with nothing. She says, yet as far as I can think, yet as far as I can think, I see. She says, for aught I see, yet as far as I can think, people who have too much, very good line she said, people who have too much are just as sick as those who are ill and starving by having nothing with them. It means people who have too much wealth, whatever. People who have too much are just as sick as those who are ill, who are really ill, who are really poor, and starving by having nothing. Those who have nothing and those who have so much, those who have in plenty of, are equal. Try to understand. Both are equal. Those who have enough or in plenty of, or those who have very little or starving by having nothing with them. Those both are poor, both are same. She says, it is no mean happiness, therefore, to be seated in the mean. She says further, the man who has, she says, it is not a bad fortune. She says, it is not a bad fortune to be seated. To be seated. She says that her feet are too much as they starve with nothing. It is no mean happiness, therefore, to be seated in the mean. Means she wants to say it is not a bad fortune. It is not a bad fortune then to be placed between the two extremes of having too much and too little. Both are. Excess of everything is, she wants to say that excess of everything is bad. If someone has too much wealth, bad. If someone is too little or continuously starving for wealth or something, both are bad. Both are bad. Too much or too little, both are bad. She says, having too much and too little. Now she says again, superfluity comes sooner by white hairs, but competency lives longer. The man who has too much wealth soon becomes grey-haired. She says, the person who has much wealth soon becomes grey-haired. But he who has just enough wealth, just enough, from which he can fulfill his desires, needs, not too much, but he who has just enough wealth lives longer. He lives longer. Portia says, good sentence and well pronounced. Good words, well spoken. Nadha says, they would be better if well followed. It would be better. It would be better if they were well followed. If good words are followed, then they would be beneficial. Otherwise, there is no use of good words. Portia says, if to do were as easy as to know what were good to do, chapels had been churches and poor men's cottages, princes' palaces. Portia says, if to do good is as easy, to do good is difficult. If to do to do good is as easy as to know what is good, then chapels would be churches. Chapels would be chapels means here a place of worship smaller than a church. Smaller than a church. She says, if to do good is as easy as to know what is good, then chapels would be churches and poor men's houses would be royal palaces. Royal palaces means they were not poor then. It is good divine. It is a good divine that follows his own instructions. A priest is good who follows his own teachings. Very good dialogue she has given. So this text is very important as well. She says a priest is good. The priest whom we can say this is a good priest. A good priest is who follows his own teachings. Whatever he preaches, whatever he says to others, whatever he preaches to others, he must follow the same. He must follow the same. A priest is good who follows his own teachings. She says here, I can easier teach 20 what were good to be done than be one of the 20 to follow my own teaching. She says, Osha says here, I can more easily tell 20 people what is good to follow. Very easy to say. 20 people means so many people. 20 people what is good to follow, than be one of the 20 to follow my own teachings. Follow my own teachings. It is very difficult. She says, the brain may devise laws for the blood, but a hot temper leaps over a cold decree. Such example she has given, such a hair is madness, the youth to skip over the meshes of good counsel, the cripple. She says here, the mind may frame rules for the body. The mind may frame rules for the body, but the heat of desire overpowers such dry laws. But the heart of the desire, the heart of desire overcomes such dry laws. The impulse of youth will make one skip the good advice. Youth does not follow. They do not follow the good advice, just as a hare avoids a trap. Just a hare. She has given the example of a hare. Just a hare avoids a trap. But what? She says, madness. She says here, such a hare is madness, the youth, to skip over the meshes of good counsel, the cripple. But this reasoning is not in the fashion to choose me husband. Oh me, the word choose. She says, but this kind of logic is not the type that will make me choose a husband. I have given so many reasons. Such type of reasoning such type of logic is not the type that will make me choose husband. Oh, what a word is to choose. What a word. What a strange word. What a peculiar word is to choose. Here she says, I may neither choose whom I would nor refuse whom I dislike. So is the will of a living daughter curbed by the will of a dead father. Is it not hard, Nerissa, that I cannot choose one nor refuse none? She asked the question to Nerissa. First of all, she says, I can neither choose the one I like nor refuse the one I dislike. I am in great dilemma. I cannot take my own decision because I am bounded by my father's will. I can neither choose the one I like nor the refuse one I dislike. For my wishes in life are controlled by the desire of a father who is dead. My father is dead, but whatever his will, I have to follow. Is it not hard, Nerissa? She asked the question. Is it not hard, Nerissa, that I can neither choose nor refuse a husband? Very difficult. It is very difficult for me. It is very hard for me that I can neither choose nor refuse a husband. What Nerissa says, we will study in my next video. Thank you so much.